Can everybody hear me? Thank you very much for that introduction. I'm sorry if it was a little anticlimactic at the end. But yes, it is a little bit like coming home today. So it was really nice to drive, I-76 from, the concrete of Harrisburg through the rolling hills and through the mountains to Indiana. So I hope you've enjoyed your time so far here at the Sustainable Economy Summit. I think the topics that everyone's talking about are very ripe. They're on the cutting edge, and I think now is a good time to be having these discussions. Today I want to cover several topics and initiatives that DEP is working on for a path for the future. The first thing I'm going to do is outline Pennsylvania's energy profile and opportunities. I'll identify some programs designed to make energy affordable and the great partnerships that we have. Discuss programs related to alternative fuel vehicle deployments. I will tell you about our focus on combined heat and power and microgrid projects. And finally, I'd like to address energy efficiency programs for small businesses and manufacturers. So the Energy Office, as we call it, I know it's OPPEA, but I call it the Energy Office. We have a lot of initiatives going on right now, and we're a really, really small office. There's only about 14 people in the Energy Office, but we have a lot of project partners across the state that make it easy for us to be able to implement a lot of the initiatives that we have right now. So let me share a little background information on Pennsylvania's energy profile. We are now the third largest energy producer in the United States. So that's all energy. And we are the first in the nation for electricity exports. We generate a lot of electricity in Pennsylvania, and we export it to our state, to the states next to us. So export of power is a significant portion of Pennsylvania's economy. We're consistently one of the top 3 electricity generating states in the nation, and we rank second in nuclear generating capacity. Pennsylvania is now the number 2 natural gas producing and exporting state, just behind Texas. And in 2015, our production exceeded 4.6 trillion cubic feet, which doubled what was produced in even 2012. So as you know, there's a lot of gas coming out of the ground in Pennsylvania. As of 2014, 51% of Pennsylvania's households use natural gas as their primary home heating fuel, while 21% depended on electricity and 19% relied on fuel oil. Natural gas accounts for 45% of capacity additions since 2011, so those are the electric generating units. We are 4th in coal production, 12th in solar capacity, and 16th in wind capacity. But our energy profile is changing, and since 2000, coal's share has moved from 57% of our energy mix to 30%, which is a profound change in the energy portfolio. And we know that it's because of natural gas, the Marcellus Shale. It has grown rapidly from about 1% of generation capacity 15 years ago to almost 30%. Renewables have also increased in Pennsylvania from 3% to 4% between 2010 to 2015. However, solar still is only less than 0.5% of electricity generation. Which brings me to our next topic, how we're going to advance the renewable energy and energy efficiency, which is one of Governor Wolf's top priorities. In the same way that we're now among national leaders in fossil fuel-based energy, we're working proactively to position the state as a leader in solar energy by 2030. According to the Pennsylvania Solar Energy Industries Association, there are over 514 solar businesses in the state. 113 the 514 is made up by 113 manufacturers, 299 installers or developers, and then there are another 102 businesses that fall into some other category. There are over 3,000 solar jobs in Pennsylvania right now. That ranks us 22nd out of the 50 states, which isn't very good considering how large our population is. For perspective, little teeny tiny Massachusetts has over 15,000 solar jobs, and New York has over 8,000, and New Jersey has over 7,000. So our neighbors have these jobs, and we need to figure out how to bring them to Pennsylvania. Governor Wolf announced on November 2nd the Finding Pennsylvania Solar Future initiative. It's a project that we're in the midst of just kicking off now, and it includes a stakeholder strategic planning to produce more solar energy and increase solar generated in-state electricity sales to at least 10% by 2030. As I said, it's less than 1% right now, and we need to figure out how to make it be at least 10%, or we want to figure out. So the project is funded by a $550,000 grant from the U.S. Department of Energy through their Sunshot initiative. And the plan will be a primary resource on Pennsylvania's path to increasing solar energy generation. DEP is leading this project while partnering with the U.S. Department of Energy Sunshot Initiative, Penn Future, the Vermont Energy Investment Corporation, and participant stakeholders from many different sectors. There are currently over 150 volunteers involved in this effort, broken into 3 work groups: regulation and rate making, future markets and business models, operations and system integration. And the deliverable that we're hoping to have is a plan based on all of the stakeholder input that will help advance us to that 10% goal. The diversity of the group is what will make sure that that plan is very balanced and considers all of the diverse viewpoints related to solar energy, and it will ensure that it best fits Pennsylvania. So this initiative is really about momentum. We're hoping to create momentum for solar deployment from this effort and increase agreement among utilities, businesses, and the government on the value of solar. The private market is already moving towards renewables. There are several large retailers here in Pennsylvania that have already shifted portion of their electricity to solar. Just a couple: IKEA, Crayola, Staples, Walmart, and Snyder's of Hanover. You probably eat their pretzels. I know. I bought a bag on my way here. I like the honey mustard flavored ones. So, in 2010, do we have any NASCAR fans in the room? Maybe. You probably don't want to admit it. My dad would always put it on, and then he'd take a nap, and then he'd wake up to see who won. So, he would say he's a NASCAR fan, but I kind of question it, his dedication. But the Pocono Raceway in 2010 installed 3 megawatts of solar generation, and it covered 25 acres. So I think a lot of different entities are really looking at what space they have and where they can build it. One of the questions that we often receive about solar energy is whether Pennsylvania has enough sun to generate the electricity. I know you've probably seen the billboards on the turnpike. I know I have, but I can answer definitively yes, Pennsylvania does have enough sun to generate solar electricity. We average about 4 to 4.5 hours per day of sunlight, and Germany, who's actually the world leader in solar installations, only gets an average of 3.5 solar hours per day. So, we think if Germany can make it work, we can make it work here in Pennsylvania. New Jersey, New York, and Massachusetts are all in the top 10 states for the amount of solar electricity capacity. And if you think about where they're located pretty similarly to Pennsylvania. According to the National Renewable Energy Lab, Pennsylvania has the technical potential to satisfy more than 30% of our electricity demand through rooftop solar alone. So that's putting your solar panels on our houses and our businesses. We don't even have to really use any green space. With regard to jobs, this is a point that we're really trying to make sure is very clear. The U.S. solar industry has added more than 51,000 jobs in 2016 and now employs over 260,000 Americans. So the solar industry is actually adding jobs 12 times faster than the overall economy. So that's what I have about solar. The next thing that I wanted to talk to you about is alternative fuel vehicles, specifically electric vehicles. I can share a little bit with you about the settlement between the Department of Justice, the federal EPA, and Volkswagen. If you recall, Volkswagen had installed some cheat devices in their emissions testing that bypassed the test equipment that your inspectors use. And as a result, they will spend $14.7 billion in the United States to offset the NOx emissions that were generated as a result of the bypass. The money that they're spending, it's actually going to be done through two funds, the Mitigation Fund and the Zero Emission Vehicle Fund. The Mitigation Fund is going to be managed by a trustee. They've found one, it's Delaware Trust. And they have divvied up the amount of money that is set aside for each state based on the number of vehicles that were sold within the state. And from that, Pennsylvania is set to receive, we're not actually receiving it, I have to be careful how I word it, but allotted for us is $118 million over 10 years. So that's a pretty big chunk of change. We're one of the larger states. And 15% of that money can be used for zero-emission electric vehicle charging stations. So we're looking at how we can deploy more electric vehicles in Pennsylvania, and we think this might be a pretty good path. There are, and I wanted to speak specifically because I know there are a lot of local government folks in the room, and some nonprofits and private businesses. Everyone will be eligible to apply to receive some of this money through a program. So the settlement actually has different ways you can use the money. It's very specific, though. It's specific to how much money you can get. It's specific to what it can be used on. The Pennsylvania legislature is not very happy about that because, of course, they want to take the $118 million and use it to balance the general fund budget. But the way that the settlement is written, there's no way that this money can be used for anything other than vehicles. So the point is to switch out old trucks and tugboats and freight switchers and lots of things that I'm not really sure what they are. Our air quality folks know what they are. Port drayage trucks, school buses, shuttle buses, transit buses, ferries and tugs, ocean-going vessels, local freight trucks, airport ground support equipment, forklifts, light-duty zero-emission vehicle supply equipment. I think that's probably about, you get the gist of it. But we'll be working over the next month to put out a draft plan that tells you what types of programs that DEP plans to set up. So DEP is kind of like a funnel. We're going to be collecting applications and projects, and then we'll send them to the trustee, and then the trustee will say yes or no, we'll fund this project. But there's definitely some opportunities if you have some old dump trucks or school buses that need to be replaced. A percentage of the cost depends on what you're doing. So if you're switching from a diesel to a cleaner diesel, maybe only 40% will be covered. But if you're switching from a diesel to an electric, maybe more will be covered. It really just depends on what you plan to do. So stay tuned for that. But it's, just to be clear, that's over the next 10 years. So if you miss the first round, you'll probably have a little more time to apply. The second fund that Volkswagen set up is the Zero Emission Vehicle Fund, and this one is controlled by Volkswagen. They set up an LLC called Electrify America to handle this, but states can submit project proposals to this ZEV fund for electric charging vehicle infrastructure. Last week, Volkswagen came out with their plan for Cycle 1, and it seems like they're really focusing on interstate corridors and large metropolitan areas for electric charging infrastructure. Let's see, I can skip through this. Philadelphia is going to get some money from that, or some infrastructure. So that's all new money. That's kind of a special program, but another long-standing program that DEP has operated since the early 90s is the Alternative Fuels Incentive Grant Program. The intent is to provide an incentive for market-ready opportunities that better manage our fuel resources in a way that also improves our environment, supports economic development, and enhances our quality of life. AFIG provides a competitive solicitation for alternative fuel projects, at least annually. This year we did it 3 times, a little overwhelming. I think we'll do it twice next year. which private citizens, businesses, local governments, school districts can apply to purchase eligible alternative fuel vehicles. We funded a lot of school buses to switch over to natural gas or propane. We funded a small business to receive or do some electric vehicle work. Our alternative fuels incentive grant is offered year-round. Like I said, I think we're going to do 2 this year. And you can use it for alternative vehicles, infrastructure, research and development. I know we have a university here. They might want to do some R&D, but they would be eligible for a grant. We get about $5 million a year. We're hoping that we get $5 million this year, but the legislature likes to take our money. Earlier this month, we announced the awards for 16 projects of the AFIG program. That's what we call it, you know, an acronym. Have to put everything into an acronym. The buses, cars, and trucks purchased and rebuilt with these grants will reduce air pollution and improve the air we breathe. These types of projects pay economic and environmental dividends for communities and for Pennsylvania. As part of that grant program, we have a rebate program. This one's a little bit simpler, and it allows us to provide an incentive to car buyers to drop down the price of the alternative fuel. We processed 606 rebates through 2016. So this is basically you go out and you buy a Nissan Leaf, or you can buy an electric motorcycle or a scooter. I don't know how many of those we actually fund. But you can get like a $2,000 rebate if you purchase an electric vehicle. Which leads me into the electric vehicle working group. Let me check my time here. I better talk fast. We convened what we're calling an EV Everywhere Coalition, where we're getting a bunch of stakeholders together to talk about how we can deploy more electric vehicles in Pennsylvania. And the Volkswagen settlement, we think, will set us up pretty well. We also have a couple what we call SEP initiatives, State Energy Plan initiatives. The Energy Office receives about $1.5 million every year from the Department of Energy. It is on the chopping block this year, of course. And with that, we fund some kind of pilot-based projects to push the technology a little bit further. We focus on combined heat and power, distributed energy technology at the Philadelphia Navy Yard, where we have a microgrid that is leveraging Pennsylvania Marcellus shale gas and solar energy to basically set up a microgrid. A lot of hospitals and universities are very interested in this because of, whenever the electric goes down, something happens. If you can generate your own, it's pretty valuable. And I'll talk about one more related to energy efficiency. We've been working with PennTap, which is through Penn State University, the Technical Assistance Program, to provide energy assessments to small and mid-sized manufacturers across Pennsylvania. So PennTap will go in, they'll tell you how to save your money business, how you can save energy, and then they help you get the retrofits. So this year, we expect to do between 70 and 75 businesses, and if they were to deploy all of the recommended measures, we could save them up to $700,000 a year, just in energy efficiency. And the emissions of CO2 could be reduced by 262,000 metric tons, and other air pollutants by nearly 300,000 pounds annually. We're also working on a pilot right now in Philadelphia on energy assessments and retrofits for small restaurants and corner stores. They tend to use a lot more electricity than commercial buildings typically do. So we're doing a pilot there, and we hope to expand it to other parts of the state next year if this is successful. So we try to link them with our Small Business Advantage Grant, which provides up to $9,500 in grants for energy efficiency. So if you know anybody with businesses, they're looking at installing new refrigerators, things like that, they can get up to $9,500 for energy efficiency fixes. So I'll just stop there. I'm over time. So am I supposed to take questions or no? It's
we'll take like one or two questions, and then we've got to move over.
yeah. I think they're serving dessert now, so I mean, you might. Yes.
Please comment on the recent Philadelphia city ordinance either prohibiting or restricting charging stations in the city of Philadelphia.
You know, we're not really sure about that. I mean, it was.
It came out of council 11-6.
Yeah, it did. You know, state government, we didn't really have any, we weren't consulted, we weren't really asked about that, but it is something that was a little bit concerning to us because right as we are about to talk about how we're getting more electric vehicle deployments, then they kind of work on almost a disincentive. I think they're looking at installing some charging stations in their parking garages, so I don't know if that has anything really to do with it, but
Came out as a parking problem.
yeah. Yeah, well, parking is an issue in Philadelphia, and I think they saw it as, you know, someone will go out and buy an electric vehicle, and then they would have basically a designated parking spot once they installed this infrastructure, and I think, you know, people started to complain because it was less parking spots for them, so. Okay, well, thank you very much.